Hi friends, this is your pal Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons, and I'm going to talk to you about my learning campaign. The campaign of Dungeons & Dragons where I learned the most. And today what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tell you exactly how I got into this learning campaign, because it was a little bit challenging. And so we're going to take kind of a long walk on this. And let me explain. So first of all, let me explain this learning campaign. So the reason why I call it a learning campaign is the Dungeons & Dragons campaign where I learned the most how to be a good dungeon master. And the reason why is I rarely learn anything from any dungeon master I play under. I've played for a long time, and I've had some good dungeon masters, but it is extremely rare for the dungeon masters to be better than me. I would say I started dungeon mastering in full in 1982. And I would say between 1982 and 1988, I had a couple of dungeon masters who were better than me because I was very new, right? And really didn't know too much. Maybe 1 to 3 dungeon masters are a little better than me. And I learned a little bit during those times. But then I went to college, and I certainly did not meet any dungeon masters in college that were better than me. And then I would say, and that was 1988 to 1992. Then in second edition, absolutely not. There was a lot of, I think I saw a lot of very mediocre dungeon mastering in second edition. And then third edition, man, it really popped off, and a lot of new dungeon masters were coming in, and I saw some very good dungeon masters there. But I really didn't hit a dungeon master I felt was very clearly a better dungeon master than me, until this learning campaign, which I'll tell you about right now. All right. So this is so basically, I go to the friendly local game shop. I go to my friendly local comic shop. It's pretty close to me. It's like 3 miles away. And on Wednesdays, I just go to the shop and I get new comics, right? I love to do this for a lot of reasons. The biggest reason is I hate getting second or third prints. I want to get a first print on everything. I collect mostly number ones, and then if I fall in love with that number one, I might collect through the first story arc. But after that, I don't get much, right? So I try to keep my, because it's expensive, so I try to keep it lean. But I show up at my friendly local comic shop. I love to see the stuff that drops, and I pick up number ones, first printings. And one thing I can do is about 2 or 3 times a year, one of these things will pop off, and I could sell that one comic off, and it'll often pay for 1 to 3 months of my comic line, which is great, just selling one off. And then I can keep 10 or even 20 comics sometimes just for nothing, right? So I highly recommend going to your comic shop this way. So I went to my comic shop, and I was just doing so the way it works is you go, there's like a special section, and on that section it's all brand new stuff, and it's about a 10-15 foot section, floor to ceiling, all on shelves. And so I went through the new ones. Then you go into the recent new, right? And you don't really need to go into the recent new. I just like to go in there just to see some activity. It circles this back issue section. So I went in just around to see if maybe could pick up something I had missed earlier, just see what was there, right? In case I had missed anything. And so I'm circling around, and this one dude, and I get close to this guy, and we're in like the S's, right? So it's like Star Wars, Spider-Man, and there's a lot of stuff I like to see in there. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, right? And so we're kind of bouncing around each other, and it was a little off-putting, because like he was in my way, I was in his way. But I guess it was because it was in the T's, and there's just a lot of banger stuff in the T's, in the S's and the T section, and it was kind of awkward, right? And I was just like, I need to get in here and see. And he's like, hey, I'm shopping here, get out of the way, it was awkward. It was not good, right? So I had this awkward moment, and so I didn't think of it. And then next week comes, right? So next week comes, and I see this guy again, And we just, smiled and like, and I smiled and I backed up and let him pass, right? And we weren't near the tees, we are just in a different area. But I was like, you know what? I'll just wait, right? So then the week after that, the guy, smiles at me. I smile at him because we're doing the same thing. We're going, and we're in the same. We go generally at the same time, right? And so, but this week, and by the way, I noticed his stack is always bigger. His stack always bigger than mine, right? And so he's got more money than me. That's pretty clear, right? Because I love collecting comics, but I'm careful about it. It's not cheap, and I got a family, so I got to be careful, right? So he's got, a bigger stack, and so I see one week that I was like, oh, wait a second, right? And so I said, hey, that's issue number 5, right? And he's like, yeah. And I said, I'm sorry to ask, but I missed the number 1 on that. And I've been trying, I've been looking, but they do such a great job on the new and but if it isn't on the new shelf, it can be really hard to find it here. I don't know if it's on the recent new shelves or if it's in the back issues. And the biggest thing is I never know if they have variant covers. So have you seen the number 1 of that in any variant covers anywhere in the recent news or in the back issues or on the wall, right? Now, first of all, why would I ask this guy? Why wouldn't I just ask the FLGS, right? Well, that's a very interesting question. The reason why I wouldn't ask the FLGS is it's not actually an FLGS. It's not a friendly. It's just an LGS, right? And it depends on what night you're on. Some of the employees are very nice, but they have some very they hire. I'll say it. They got this Warhammer guy, and he knows Warhammer front to back, and they do a ton of Warhammer in that shop. But he's extremely unfriendly, and he knows Warhammer back to front. The other thing is, I think a lot of people don't know this, but a lot of shops, they determine who they're going to hire if they don't steal. And that seems like a small thing, but it's not, right? Like, it's so easy to steal from these shops. This shop has magic. Like, you could just, you could easily slip a card, a $300 card, magic card into your pocket and just walk out the door if you were an employee. So they need people who know the stock and are not going to steal from them. Good customer service is pretty low down. Like, you don't have a lot of options for this. So basically that's why I would, and so the guy was like, hey, he's like, yeah, I do know where there's a variant cover. And he's like, they got a variant cover here. And so he takes me over and he points at it and I'm like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. This is really helpful, right? And at that point I built a little bit of goodwill with this guy. And that was the first step to getting to a point where he would dungeon master for me. So which I was very happy about. And of course there'll be more of this story. Thanks for your patience. I'll let you know. I'll come back with more info on this. Every single word you just heard in this video is my humble opinion, nothing more, nothing less. The important part is when I get to hear your humble opinion. When you get in the comments and send your traffic, please consider liking, subscribing, and have a fetch millennium.